Joining us now to help better understand the plight of the average American amid lockdowns is Emma Meshell. She's the spokesperson for Young Americans for Liberty. So Emma, right now, you and I have talked about how lockdowns are affecting the average American right throughout this entire country, this entire pandemic for that matter. And right now, it doesn't seem like things are changing too much. We see in the city of New York, for example, there's continued lockdowns, California as well. Overall, is this still an issue that's affecting the average worker?
Absolutely, possibly even more so than any other issue we're facing right now, because it's drawing a lot of people who don't even care about politics into this discussion because it's not a political issue. It's whether you can feed your family or not. And that is the ultimate factor as to what we are going to be as a country. Are we going to be a place where families can afford to feed their children and put food on the table? Or will we be a place where we rely on the government to do that for us? And here's a hint, the government's not very good at doing that. Just look at the unemployment lines in these states across the country. They're barely even answering the phone. So I think we're about to reach a breaking point, Alex, where people will not take any more. They're going to start standing up to these orders more and more, like we've seen with the Slapfish restaurant line owner, who said he's going to open his restaurants and actually serve food to people and defy these orders. I think we're going to see a lot more of that from people who find this new political energy because they're being pushed beyond their limit. And for a lot of people, that's when they can't afford a meal anymore, or they can't afford to feed their families or pay their employees. And I think we're just about there.
I think you're exactly right. And when you look at this issue, I'm going to put aside any ideological perspectives about the deficit, anything like that, and just talk from a common sense perspective. If you are telling someone to close down their business and they can't work, they can't do that unless they do have governmental assistance of some sort, anyway, in order to put food on their table. Yet we see, even when it comes to governmental assistance or stimulus checks, for example, that's a Band-Aid on this overall problem. Because if small businesses are closed, those stimulus checks or any other money goes to the places who are deemed essential, the Amazons, the Walmarts, things of that nature. And that doesn't help the longevity of these small businesses, let alone their ability to survive in this very moment. So what is the solution? Is it just allowing these businesses to open up and allowing people who are scared of the virus not to go outside if that's the case?
Here's the solution. The government needs to stop picking winners and losers in business right now. And that's what's happening. Our government is choosing which people get to survive in this economy and which ones don't. And let me tell you, it's the Amazons, it's the Walmarts that are thriving, bringing in record profits. And I'm not opposed to them doing that. They have a product that people like and need. But at the same time, when you are telling small business owners, restaurant owners, people who provide services that their business is illegal overnight, they wake up one morning and their entire life's work has been made illegal, that is cronyism. We are no longer living in a free market. We're living in a market where the successful people are being handpicked by the government and their corporations are growing bigger and bigger. And again, I'm not against large companies being successful if they're offering a product that is demanded and that people want and are willing to pay for. What I'm against is the government selectively shutting down certain people while also these bureaucrats are going to vacation in Mexico or eat at the French Laundry with their friends. This is a joke to them. They're taking us for a joke. They think that we are stupid because we're following these orders even when they're not. And I think people are waking up to that, and it's a good thing.
No, you're exactly right. And once again, to reiterate the point, there are Democratic small business owners, too, who are right now feeling this very struggle. It's not a pro-Trump versus anti-Trump type of argument, as many people in the media do want it to play out. And once again, it's not necessarily that these people don't believe in the coronavirus or don't think that it's a very serious pandemic. It's the fact that they are fighting a war on two fronts, and one of them seems to be more immediate for many of them. They don't know how they're putting dinner on their family's table tonight. They don't know how they're paying rent at the end of the month. We're seeing people having their cell phones shut off, their car payments be rejected, things of that nature right now. So there is quite literally a war on multiple fronts. But when it comes to the public health pandemic, many people will say that they do need to close down because we just hit this 300,000 death milestone, for example, that there are surging cases. How should people respond to that argument when they're talking about lockdown orders?
Well, we do have a duty in America to take care of those who are most vulnerable, but I don't believe that's a duty that the government is very good at handling. Clearly, look at how it's addressed Social Security and addressed these stimulus checks. We need to, in our own communities, help protect the vulnerable, help make sure that our senior citizens and those who are at risk of death with this virus are being taken care of and that we're rallying around them. But what does not help is when we have young, healthy people closed inside their homes, forced into confinement, not working, not spending money, not boosting our economy, that does absolutely nothing to protect the vulnerable. We have to keep going as a nation. In the past, when we've had problems, people have rallied together to find solutions. We're not going to find solutions if we're all locked inside all day long, sitting on social media, fighting with each other. It's time for America to move forward cautiously in a smart way, take the precautions that we need to take, but let's get our economy open again so people aren't worried whether or not they can feed their kids at the end of the day, or worried if their kids are not learning to read in school. These are the core issues that we will feel the effects of for decades, if not centuries, if we do not get a grip and pull it together right now.
And all of that in addition to the idea that we're also seeing other alarming figures coming out, such as an increase in suicides, an increase in drug use, depression, all of this, and especially when you apply that to children. That is something that we're seeing being applied to them too right now, as they're forced to learn remotely, not being allowed into the classroom, even though science around the country, including from Dr. Fauci down to the state level, says that kids are not likely to contract the virus, not likely to spread it. It's really coming to the detriment of their well-being on a much larger scale. And that is something that parents see. And also when it comes to lockdowns, that's something that the average American sees firsthand. It's not something that they have to see on a campaign commercial or anything like that. They know what is coming into their bank account. They know if they're able to make a living. So do you think that moving forward, this will promote people to get more involved in state and local politics? Because at the end of the day, that's who's making these decisions. People want to put it on President Trump, even on the federal government, but that's not really where this is coming from, correct?
You're absolutely correct. And I think people are starting to realize that they can't afford to sit politics out anymore, because if they do, then their voice may not be heard and their business may be shut down. And I think this has been a real awakening for a lot of people that, yes, it's important who we have leading our federal government. That's not a small issue. But what affects our day-to-day lives and our ability to either thrive or be locked inside and miserable all the time comes down to our state and local leadership, even on a city level, but more so on a state level. And this is what we do at YAL. We operate in state politics and endorse representatives who believe in freedom and who believe in open markets and personal liberty. I think we're going to see a massive backlash on the state legislative level to these people who have continually aided and abetted these lockdowns and gone along with these bureaucrats who have kept their states in a state of turmoil since March. I think there is going to be an incredible backlash to that over the next couple years that we see, because people realize they cannot just sit back and wish the best for politicians. They need to get involved and hold their leadership accountable. And if there's one silver lining from all of this, I think it's that. I think people are going to finally reject big government controls, because we have now in recent memory an example of how bad they are.
And I don't think that the argument can be any more persuasive. For so many families in this country right now, it is quite literally a life and death situation. People don't want to view it that way, but if you can't make an income, what else can you do? I mean, that's quite literally the position that a lot of people are putting in right now. But Emma Meshell from Young Americans for Liberty, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, talking about this topic, because this is a side of the conversation that isn't getting covered enough. So I thank you for coming on and doing it.
Thank you, Alex.